Let's turn our attention to the royals. Well, one thing that they're not doing today is being in France on a state visit. King Charles and Camilla were supposed to be in France today. They're heading, though, to Germany a little bit later this week. So the first state visit of our new king will be Germany and not France after those protests. Rupert Bell is TalkRadio's world commentator and joins us. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Well, I mean, there's an awful lot of royal correspondents who are really gutted not to get their nice trip to Paris and Bordeaux, I'm sure. But it is interesting. I mean, you couldn't really have had a situation where the king was supposed to be getting a TGV high-speed train from Paris to Bordeaux, general strike on Tuesday, that train's maybe not running or protest. I suppose they couldn't really guarantee he could be safe.
Yeah, I think that was the overriding suggestion, and it was President Macron's decision to cancel it. It wasn't the British government's decision, because obviously they had to be led by what President Macron felt the situation was in his country. Now, it's obviously very frustrating for the king, because he'd made great play of the fact that he wanted his first state visit to be to France and to Europe, and to make sure that we still are seen to be a relevant part of the European situation. And obviously there's a lot going on post-Brexit, and that's why he wanted to go. He's a Francophile, so I'm sure he's feeling deeply frustrated.
Yeah.
But clearly, as you've been referring to, the French love a good protest. Whether you agree with them or not, they like to fill the streets with their views.
It seems they certainly do. Well, let's talk about what's happening back here, though. Of course, I mean, Prince Harry's always in the news, especially after his autobiography, Spare. Turns out Prince Andrew thinks this would be a good idea for him as well, to write his own autobiography. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? I think what he also needs to do, if he is thinking about it, is actually think about the reaction that Harry got from his book, which hasn't been universally brilliant. Now, it may have outsold and earned him a bucket load of money, but the reaction to it is not probably the one, certainly in this country, that Prince Harry would have liked. So Prince Andrew, if he's thinking of doing it, then he's got to be thinking, well, can I turn the public around on him, which is what he wants, because obviously he feels completely isolated. But it's a big ask. And bearing how well his first interview went with Emily Maitlis, I'm not sure the book's going to do much better for him.
That Newsnight interview was supposed to be him, putting the world to rights and explaining his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and he was advised against it, we are told, but by some advisors. Of course, the palace wasn't aware this was going on until he'd already recorded it. Apparently, he left that interview walking down the corridor, the palace, going, excellent, brilliant, really happy with that. And everyone whose aides told him they were very happy. And it was an absolute disaster for him, PR-wise, although rather useful for us to find out, his version of events, which immediately started falling apart. Can he sweat? Can't he? Which nightclub was he in, etc. Pizza Express in Woking and all that. But I mean, if Prince Andrew thinks this is going to rehabilitate him and explain his relationship, and it's going to improve his PR, I mean, the odds are this is going to be the worst disaster ever.
I'm afraid so, because, of course, it will be picked. Every sentence will be analysed, picked, tried to be verified, and he will find himself under the same scrutiny that Harry found when his book came out, and everything that followed on from that, and obviously all the sort of parodies since, and people having a pop at it. And so for Prince Andrew, it's a brave call. He's got a big problem to try and rehabilitate himself in the future, and I'm not sure this book is the right idea at the moment.
Ever. Let's also talk about reports that Prince William is seeking a new role as a global statesman. That's how he sees his role. Now, he and Charles very much both see that, especially on the climate issue, don't they? But again, I think especially as the net zero issue hots up, as people wake up to the realisation of the level of, ruination of our lives it's going to involve and the cost of it, this is going to become increasingly political and indeed almost party, I hope at some point, a party political issue. That's when people actually get a choice and get to give a verdict on it, which we haven't had a chance to do before, when all the parties say they support the same thing. That's going to be increasingly dangerous, isn't it?
Yes, bearing in mind, the King has always had environmental issues at the centre of his before he became king. People used to think he was a bit of a crank back in the late 70s with his penchant for environmental issues. Now, I suppose William feels he wants to carry on his father's legacy, but it is a political hot potato. But I think more important, if you look at what he did in Poland last week, that is, and again, sort of the role that he can be, the sort of energetic side of the royal family, because obviously the king is in his 70s.
Yeah.
And what he did last week, I think, was just the kind of role that a member of the royal family should be doing. He is going to be a future commander-in-chief. He was out there visiting British troops out there. He was offering support to Poland, who have always been historically allies. You know, we think back to the Second World War.
He's going to increasingly take on more of that role, isn't he? Because his and Kate's age vis-a-vis Charles and Camilla. Really good to talk to you. Great to get that perspective. Rupert Bell there, our royal correspondent.